Hello, this is Bill Hahn. Welcome to the IBM BPM tutorial demo series. In this scenario, we're going to be using a plain vanilla install of WebSphere Lombardi Edition and the example application that comes with it, the Quick Start tutorial, HR Open New Position process. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to start WebSphere Lombardi Edition. We're using version 7.2 in this case. We're going to log on to it with the tw_admin default user ID. That's one of the user IDs that comes installed by default. tw_admin for the username and the password. So once we log on, we'll find ourselves inside the WebSphere Lombardi Edition Process Center, where we see a list of all of our process applications. So let's go ahead and open up the Quick Start tutorial by going over to click on Open in Designer. And once we're in the Designer, we're going to go ahead and visit the Processes section of the Process Library, and we'll go ahead and open up HR Open New Position. So let's take a tour of the HR Open New Position process. In this process, we have several swim lanes or roles. The top swim lane is the hiring manager. The hiring manager submits job requisitions to either backfill existing positions or request a new position. If it's an existing position, it'll go down this path and HR will find job candidates. If it's a new position request, a general manager needs to review and approve that. If the general manager rejects the request, it'll go to the Notify Hiring Manager of Rejection activity. If the general manager approves the new job requisition, then it'll go to the HR Finds Job Candidates. The way this process was initially built included leveraging this BPMN Business Process Modeling Notation palette on the right. So you notice that we can work with activities, swim lanes, decision gateways, a variety of BPMN elements. We can simply drag and drop these elements onto the visual canvas and connect them together as easy as using a drawing tool. And as we'll see, we actually do quite a bit more than just draw the process. Actually, the act of drawing the process is implementing an application, a runnable BPMN application. So let's take a look at how that works by using the play button, the playback button in the upper right hand corner. When we click that, what happens is it actually runs this process. We'll notice that we switched from the designer view to the inspector view, and in the left over here we see that we've created a new instance of the process. In the top right it shows us the step we're at, and in the visual diagram it highlights it as well. So let's go ahead and claim this activity or run this task. We see in the first activity the hiring manager is presented with a screen that they can use to request a new or backfill for an existing position. In this screen we have some default values to minimize your typing. We grab the process instance ID to fill out a unique requisition number. We fill out the hiring manager. We default to a full-time position for Boston, and it's new as opposed to a backfill for an existing position. We can see a date, the department we're trying to hire into, the number of employees, and the job title. So let's go ahead and use this to submit several job requisitions. We'll go ahead and click Next, review it, and submit it. We can see when we refresh that the process has proceeded to the next step. In this case, since it was a full-time new position as opposed to a backfill for an existing position, the general manager needs to review it. So let's go ahead and claim this activity. Let's run the general manager review new position activity. They can see the request, they can approve or reject it. Because it's full-time and there's a hiring freeze, we're going to reject it. And that process is now complete. Now there's also, for convenience sake, in this step view or inspector view in the authoring environment, a run process playback button right here. So we'll use that to start another instance of the process. Let's go ahead and do a similar walk through the process, but this time we'll choose part-time instead of full-time. And once a hiring manager submits a part-time request, the general manager will review it. The general manager sees that it's a part-time request and is more inclined to approve it. And now once the general manager approves it, we think it went down the approved path, and we'll prove that in a few minutes. Now let's run a third instance through the process, and this time we'll make it an existing position. We can see that when it's an existing position, the hiring manager has a little bit more work to do. They have to identify the person that they're replacing and why they're replacing that person, their supervisor, the pay level as well as the pay type, and some notes to indicate why they need to backfill. They need to backfill this person ASAP. There must be an important person that they just lost. So now when they refresh it, we can see that the process instance is completed, and we think that it went down that top right path because it was an existing request. This is a request for backfill of an existing position. So what I'm doing now is I'm switching from the inspector view to the optimizer view. And in the optimizer view, we have the capability to analyze how the process ran. To analyze performance data about how the process ran. And in this case, we'll view or analyze all available data. All usage of the process is automatically collected for us. And we can see progress down here of it calculating the data that was automatically collected. And we can see now heat maps of activity on the process diagram. If we slide the slider bar to make the color highlights lighter or darker, we can see clearly those first two activities are where we spent most of our time. The two bottom right activities don't have any implementation, which is why they executed very quickly. So now that we have verification that we did indeed spend a certain amount of time in those two first activities, let's take a look at not just a wait time heat map, but a path analysis heat map. We can see that we submitted 100% of our requests went through these paths in the process. A third of them went down the existing backfill and existing position path. 2/3 of them needed general manager approval, and the general manager rejected one of those and approved one of those. So there's our 33% on all three paths, validating that we had 3 requests that went down each path. If we click on each one of these links, we can get more information about what went through that path in the process. We can see that 3 requests, 2 for new positions and 1 for backfill of an existing position, went through. We can see that 2 of them were full-time requests and 1 was a part-time request. We can also see that this path in the diagram was a request to backfill an existing position. We can see this path in the diagram. Actually, we can see both requests that the general manager reviewed, and we can see that the general manager rejected one and approved the other. So we've automatically collected, Webster Lombardi edition has automatically tracked and collected all of the data that flowed through each instance of the process. So not only do we see that the manager rejected one and approved the other, but we can see that one of them was for a full-time request and the other was for a part-time request. Seems like a pattern is forming here where the general manager is rejecting full-time requests and approving part-time requests.